So I'd like to introduce you to the Swedenborg community, Victoria. To tell this story, I need to go back in time a little. I was ordained in 1997. I worked for the church in Birmingham in the UK for 3 years, and in 2000 we moved to Canberra. I worked for the church in Canberra. We set up the group, we became a formal entity for 6 years, 2000 to 2006. At the end of 2006, beginning of 2007, I finished full-time ministry and I went back into teaching, piano teaching, which I'd done some years before. And so for a period of 14 years, I was teaching piano privately, within a school and also at home. So fast forward to 2018, Pam and I went back to the UK to visit friends, and we spent 6 weeks in Europe, and on the way home we arrived in London, ready to catch a flight back to Australia, back to Canberra. And I got an invitation from the new church in Melbourne, known as the New Church in Victoria at that time. And it's an invitation I really wrestled with for quite some time. Having put paid professional ministry to one side so many years previously, and really enjoying teaching, I saw myself retiring in Canberra as a piano teacher. And I was doing ministry alongside of that. It's not as though I was out of ministry completely. I was serving the Canberra group in the way that they wanted me to serve. And I was quite happy doing it. I was funding my own outreach work. Pam and I were both content in our jobs. And we really weren't ready to move. In amongst all that, it's worth saying that I have had a conviction, and I've had it for a very long time, that the traditional church is not working, and it hasn't been for some time. And the ministry that I wanted to offer was not ever going to be a traditional one. I did it for 3 years in Birmingham, quite happily, alongside other work. In Canberra, I wanted to do something non-traditional, which wasn't generally speaking accepted. And I just wasn't prepared to go back into traditional ministry. So when Melbourne sent me an invitation in 2018, they were aware enough of their own demise, their own potential demise, to offer me something new. Really, they gave me an open slate. And ultimately, we accepted. So we moved to Melbourne in 2020, and I had the intention of live streaming. Didn't know when we'd start, but that's what I wanted to get going here, as one of the one of the ways that we could both meet the traditional needs here and start to do something that's a bit more outward focused. So beginning of 2020, within about a month and a half, we were locked down in the midst of COVID, and we had to live stream. There was no other way that church activities could continue. So in many ways for us, COVID was a blessing. It meant that we got that going straight away. It meant that there were no arguments about buying equipment. And so we did it. And we live streamed services from our living room for the best part of 2 years, 2020 and 2021. And then of course with COVID and lockdown and having to find things to do, I thought it was a good opportunity to start to get used to doing what I'm doing now, talking at a camera, which I have, to be quite honest, have never felt comfortable with. And the first thing that I did was read Heaven and Hell straight to the camera like this. And then I also created a set of notes for each chapter. And over the course of the last couple of years, what we've offered on our channel has changed. So it began with the live streams. What we do with the live streams is that I'll take the recording, I will cut out the children's talk, and I'll cut out the sermon, the address, and publish one or both of those as a standalone video. These days, my aim for the sermon is 15 minutes. And that's just because I've got someone in Australia who made the comment to me that they could last 15 minutes, but beyond that, they probably might not. So that's where I aim. And then, having finished Heaven and Hell, I was kind of looking at what else we could do. Can we throw a bit more variety into the channel? And so I've started now recording these videos straight to the camera, which I issue generally nowadays it's on a Thursday morning. And that will cover a wide range of issues. I'm trying to address biblical understandings. I've been working particularly with the Book of Revelation, wanting to address atheist issues, deconstructing Christianity issues, and then just basic, what seems to me to be common sense approaches to life, you know, the kind of stuff you learn in the writings that, I don't know, everybody doesn't necessarily seem to get. So from those two long-form videos, 2 or 3 long-form videos, the address, the children's talk, and the straight to the camera video in the middle of the week, we also cut down shorts. So I drop those into an engine called Video AI these days, and they'll produce 3 or 4 shorts for me, sometimes from each of those videos, and I'll publish those 3 times a week. So we will be publishing 5 to 6 videos most weeks. And it really isn't too much of a burden. It sounds a lot of material, but the fact that I'm using the live stream, the fact that I'm already presenting a service to a live audience here, I'm just reusing what I would be doing anyway. The work is in the editing, and then doing things like creating the thumbnails and so on. It's worth sharing with you who my target audience is. I know Curtis said, you know, we've got a very broad target audience, it's kind of everybody. I'm a little bit more focused than that. As I said, my early conviction was that the traditional way we do church is not working. And I've seen in my own lifetime people leaving the church in droves. Now, I think America is different from here. It's different from the UK. If you're in Australia, if you go to the UK, church is nowhere near as populated as I believe it still is in the US. And particularly in Australia, the national religion is sport at the end of the day. But one of the things I really take to heart from Swedenborg's work is where he says the new church will grow. Now, I know there's a lot of excitement about Africa, but I don't live in Africa, I live in Australia. And what I realise about what he says is the need for Gentile states. The new church cannot effectively grow within a heart that kind of half has this old Christian mentality. It needs to have completely jettisoned it. So I think going after Christians as a target audience is not going to work. We need to be talking to people who have outright rejected Christianity. The other thing I realise is that Christians understand outreach, but they don't understand themselves being the target of that campaign. They understand reaching out into an unchurched community. And so I think even if we are going to have Christians, established old church Christians coming into the new church, they're not going to do it because we're looking for them. They're going to do it because they're going to support us reaching out to those who are unchurched. So for those two reasons, I don't go looking particularly for existing Christians. I go looking for people who are in the deconstructing Christianity scene, in the atheist scene. They, for me, are where it's at. I'm happy to take any questions if you've got any. Obviously the way to do that is stick it in the comments or write me an email. And I look forward to opportunity to talk to some of you guys about what you're doing and why and how it's developed. See you on the other side.